it
rubbing your
got so
spring.
low that it was rubbing the frame.
Right.
So you wouldn't have that problem if with the way yours is set up then.
No. Well, I mean, like, because you and I talked about that. I don't know if you
Yep.
remember, but
Yep.
your leaf spring has that clamp. We were
Yep.
discussing whether you can take it off or not for the to shorten the spring. That just
Yep.
keeps the springs from twisting.
Yep.
But those spring pockets, the way they design them is they use like I think it's 3/16 bent box tube that they cut and slides inside the frame, which is, I mean, you have what, an 1/8 inch on each side for the width of the spring in that thing.
Yep.
And on mine, it's plated on the outside of the frame, so it's gusseted that way. It doesn't look as pretty, but that's the way mine is done. But I'm using the stock bushings and the stock leaf spring bushing, so I have the deflection and the twist that the stock springs have from the rubber, if that makes sense, versus polyurethane or whatever. So I have a nice, smooth, quiet ride.
The guy who did my pocket kit years ago, whoever did it, actually, you're supposed to have 2.5 inches in between the pocket, and I only have 2 3/8 because I either use thicker steel or whatever it is. So when I got my springs redone, I actually had to shave them with the little die grinder, just shave them down a little bit to get in there.
Yeah, and they work fine.
Yep. Oh, it's very cool. I like that slider idea. That's cool.
Yeah, that is definitely
another
cool.
buddy of mine. He wants to make them out of laser cut plate, and he wants to copyright those and patent those and send them out. And I said, knock yourself out, man. I don't care. Do it. Because he wants them he's building a 55 gasser, so he wants to copy it when he builds that. And he wants to do that same setup. So I sent him all the measurements and the bearing part numbers and all the bolts and said, man, if you want to make that, go for it. Because I'm sure there's some guys that could use that stuff. Put it online. I don't care.
Exactly. No, it looks cool. Tell us about the power plant a little bit.
So it's do you guys remember back? We're gonna go back like 15, maybe 20 years ago when was it Checker, Kragen, Shucks, that conglomeration, that auto parts group? They used to have a performance group. You remember that? They had like a whole section of the store had like blowers and heads, and it was super shops, but it wasn't super shops. It was smaller than that. Well, way back then, they used to sell Motown short blocks, and then I think they sold Jasper and different versions of like built small block Chevys or whatever engine. You could just go through a catalog and order. I think it was $6.99 for a complete long block back then. You could buy them cheap. So this is like the short block in my car is a 15-year-old Motown full forged race bottom end that they used to sell through Checkers, and then the top end is my buddy Rob bought it here, and then he was going to do the Performer RPM, top end kit, the 430 horse, aluminum heads, cam, package, intake package. So he bought the intake and carburetor, but he bought Dart Pro 1 215 heads instead of the Edelbrock Performer RPM heads, which is like 3 levels up from the Performer head. Nothing wrong with the RPM head. They're decent, but a Dart Pro 1 head is, I mean, out of the box race head. They're fantastic heads. Set up for roller springs, and they're a nice set of heads. I think they flow like 293 or something CFM, something crazy number. They're huge. So that's what's on it. And then they're 64 cc's. They are CNC as they come out of the box, CNC port matched or whatever factory. And it's got Crane gold rockers on it, 1:5 ratio, and the cam is basically equivalent to like a Performer RPM. I think it's 530 lift. It's not very big. It's small.
Okay.
And then but the bottom end is it's 2 valve relief, flat top piston, 0 deck height. So it's like 10.8. I'd have to like do the whole calculations on it, but roughly 10.5 to 11 to 1, somewhere in there is what it is with those heads.
Okay. And so cool. You have to run the 91 octane, right?
No, I run
octane boost. Do you?
Nah.
Okay.
Yeah, I run regular gas.
Just
that motor only sees like 7,500 every once in a while.
You just back the timing down a little bit.
Yeah, it's at 30 right now, and I'm 20% underdriven, so it's not like I'm really
making a whole lot of boost.
Yeah, I'm running some small Carter 625s, the 600 CFMs from the 70s, those old 625Ss or whatever.
Right.
I'm running those, and I've got an Excel dual point that's 40 years old.
Nothing but new
With the
stuff is
Excel,
what you're saying.
No, I have
with
old
the
stuff in that thing.
with the Excel ignition coil too, the big yellow one.
No, I don't have the big one. I have the super stock chrome one that was painted
Okay.
black. That's flaking.
Okay.
The chrome is the black paint's breaking. It's sitting sideways. But I'm running like a 25-year-old set of wires that I don't remember where I got those wires or what they're off of.
Sell super stocks or just a stock
Yeah,
type?
yeah, they're Excel super stocks. They're yellow.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
I had
Cool.
one.
I like
had
that.
one of those on my car.
Yeah, they work
Yeah.
great, and it's
Yeah.
I got a rock crusher in it. I'm gonna have 22 in it, and I got a Lakewood blow bell and a 40-pound, the lighter GM stock flywheel, not the big thick one, but the lighter one.
Yeah.
And I'm an 11-inch clutch. I got one of those dual compound things, but I mean that thing will light the clutch off if I catch it wrong. It'll just smoke the clutch.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah.
And I
probably got plenty of torque.
Yeah, it really starts coming on around 3,000. If I'm in first gear and I let it get that far, like just cruising across an intersection or something, and I nail it at that point, it's gone. Like that thing will bury the tack in a matter of seconds. and
That's all right.
the valves don't float. I watch it one day just go like past 7 to 8 like that, and I was like, whoa, easy, calm down.
Right foot retract.
How long have you had the car, Brant?
Let's see, I got it. What's today? The 1st of December. So in 5 days, I'll have had the car 2 years, but it's only been on the road since July.
Okay.
And I've got maybe not too many miles, maybe 8,500 miles on it since then. Not a whole lot.
Had mine on the road 3 years and I don't have $3,000 on it.
Oh, no, this car will have 30,000 miles on it before the year's out.
I've had my car for since I bought the car in 2001, I think I put like 2,000 miles on it before I tore it apart to restore it. It had 72,000 when I got it. It's got 76 now. But since I've restored the car and whatnot, the odometer hasn't been hooked up, but I know it hasn't probably gone 2,000 miles since I've gotten done restoring it.
How do you guys know what's normal and what's not normal on your cars?
Well, normal is breaking shit for me.
Well, yeah, but how do you know like how to fix all the stuff you're going to break easily and then go for the little annoying things like a little vibration or something if you don't drive them every day all day?
Yeah, well mine between what cruising we did when we did cruise it, and then now that I race it mostly, when you race it and your open headers and everything, Joey can attest to this. Open headers and everything, you don't hear vibrations anymore.
Yeah, but that's why I put cutouts on. That's why I put cutouts on, because I'll tell you, I put all new weather stripping in the car when we did it, but I've got a rattle in my driver's door. I thought I fixed it last winter because when you roll the window up, it releases the pressure on the door panel, and that rod that runs from the door latch back to the latch or the door handle back, it's rattling right in the locking mechanism. Yeah. I thought I fixed it. Well, cold weather, I roll up the window. That's the only thing that rattles. I'm like, so I either roll with my window down 4 inches so it doesn't rattle, or I open the cutouts, and it solves all the issues.
Yeah, see, you know what I'm talking about. I know you guys drive your cars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I drive mine. Yeah, I drive mine quite a bit. There's some kind of hangout at least, 2 times a week. If it's got good weather, I'll go hit a hangout, just, cruise around and sit and talk with the guys and stuff like that.
So you guys all have other cars then to drive daily.
This is true.
Well, then that would be bringing up, because my insurance, that can't be my daily driver. I mean, that specifically says it can't be your daily driver. You can, I can drive it. I don't have, it's not classic insurance where you can only take it to parades and stuff like that. I mean, I can drive it wherever I want to drive it, but that cannot be my daily vehicle. I have to have another daily vehicle, and it has to be in a garage, can't be in a carport, blah, 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 and all that stuff.
I can't get those classic car companies to insure me out here. because I'm in Hawaii, they won't do it. If they do, I'm not allowed to drive. I have to have another car,
Right.
and it's my only car, so I just have like regular progressive liability on it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a whole lot of money in the car, so I mean, if it breaks or blows up or gets wrecked, I'm not out a whole lot.
Yeah. No, I've got Berkeley, and I think I'm right around 600 a year. And some guys are like, "Oh my God, that's expensive." Yeah, but I can tell you, when I had an accident 2 years ago, they didn't blink an eye at replacing stuff. They gave me a nice check right away, got things going, and that's
Yeah.
worth it to me.
Yeah,
And
that's the thing
I,
about those insurance companies.
I think I'm at a 5,000 mile cap a year is what they want to cap me at, but I don't have a working odometer except for the little digital one I put in that works, but it doesn't work. You know what I
There
mean?
you
So
go.
how do you
How do you
track
know?
it?
Well,
Right.
you're testing it first before you hook the actual odometer up. You're trying to
Right.
make sure all the bugs are worked out of it before it's actually, and make sure the repair is done properly.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
here
Test drive.
I'm 3 years in and I'm still bringing stuff. I mean, just even this last weekend, my clutch or my uh cable for the throttle pedal, gas pedal, frayed. So I stuck open at 4,100 RPM.
Well,
It's like, okay, you
that's
know,
good fun.
oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
I got it to release down to 2,700. That was at least drivable. But when you
Oof.
lose 7 out of 8 of the cables, you just kind of get home. That's all I did.
Ooh,
Eh,
yeah.
yeah.
But that's also why I tell people buy the low car pedal right away. Don't buy the jigs because this is what's going to happen. It's just
Right.
junk. So that's all right. You got
Yeah.
what's your future plans, Brant? How far do you want to take this car?
Oh man, if money was no object, I would just go pick up another car and pick up a hardtop and just leave this car as it is.
Come
I've
on,
got
Joey, give them.
Yeah.
I've got some. Well, I mean, I got as far as hardtops and posts go, I think a 150 hardtop would look stupid. And I love my 150, but I
Right.
don't like post cars. I like hardtops, but I love the 150. So,
Right.
I mean, post cars are cool, but they're the roof's longer and they're just kind of the hardtop. Just 57 hardtop is such a good looking car, but
I agree.
I
210 or Bel Air.
Oh man, I could go with either one. I really could. But I had my eye on another 57 hardtop that got punched in the nose. That's been sitting for years in Southern California. And I talked to the guy. In fact, I made a deal on that car before I bought this one, and he just didn't have the title and stuff, so it was going to take him a couple months to get the title. And then right after I made the deal, the next day this car popped up on Craigslist on a different island, just parts of it. So I was like, ooh, I've been chasing that car for 10 years, but it was always out of my grasp. Every time I'd go to buy it, it had just been sold or whatever. So it's passed around. So I called that guy back. He's like, if you want to, you can come get this one later. Go get that 150. So that's what I did. But if money was no object, this car, man, I would really like to have the stock interior in it, completely original interior in it, and then take my roll bar that I built and have that chromed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd like to have the body. I'd like to have the body done. It was already frame off a long time ago, but as I've said before, stuff rusts from just sitting. So,
Yep.
Certain parts of it need to be fixed. Some small patches in the floor pan need to be done. Although the most of it's all gloss black, but there's like a couple rust holes through on the floor pan. So I'd like to fix that stuff. But I think I would just do the body work, do a couple patch panels, get the interior, just keep it as a nice driver.
Mm-hmm.
And have that be my driver, and then I would build a hardtop. And the hardtop would be, probably exactly the same: blown small block, 4-speed, chrome roll cage, stock interior,
Right.
all that same kind of style. I can't get away from that. I just have a certain style. That's just the way it is.
I like
Absolutely,
the
man.
old school look.
Yeah,
So-
my first 150 was a drag car that was actually campaigned in California, and this is before rat rods and the nostalgia stuff was cool. And I bought that thing for a song, and it still had the 283 that ran in D-stock with crazy compression and the huge saw lifter cam in it. And you could barely make out the lettering on the side. And it was just beat, no interior, and they'd cut the cage out. and like this much of the stub was sticking around everywhere. Like they put the torch on their side and sawed the cage out. So the cage was gone. It was completely empty.
Right.
Had a no interior, just some 64 Impala bucket seats in it, and it was a 3-speed car on the floor, and it just had this super stock this stock destock 283 in there, and they had put headers on it and cut torque tubes off of like a Chevy truck, and that was the header extensions. They just had long collectors, and they had sliced them right before the rear axle. And I put old ET 5-spoke mags on it and some polyglass like GTs in the back, like some 15x7s, some nice, like, I forget what size they were, like a G60 or something. And the front, I had skinny bias plies on some 15x4s. That stuff look like torque thrusts, but they're the ET mags or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I ran those, and I put a 4-speed in it, and I just drove that car around all over the place, just beat to crap and super loud. And every car show I went to, people just turned their nose up to it because it was ugly and not finished. And I would just tell people, hey man, mine makes your car look that much better. Just relax. Because I mean, the rat rods weren't cool. Old nostalgic cars weren't cool yet. Cackle Fest just started at that time when that was going on, and it was just it wasn't cool.
So tell us about a great smoke story that you're out in your car and something pulls up next to you and they think it's nothing, and then you just kind of have fun with it. I call them great smoke stories. That's what I call them.
Well, a guy in a new Z01 Camaro, he's been like messing with me a lot, or he was on the street. Every time he'd see me, he'd go by me on the highway because I got 410, so I'm only going to do 50 going up the highway. I don't care.
Yeah.
Speed limit's 55. I'll do 50. So at 2,500, I'm just doing 50. I'll just roll that thing up the highway. And he always goes by me and like revs and then launches the car and leaves me on the highway. Well, the other day I was at my buddy George's house where that picture you have of my car sitting there in that primered pickup, that's George's house. In fact, it may have been that day. I backed out and pulled on the highway, and he lives right off the highway. And I decided I'm going to do a burnout going down the highway, which is like an 8% grade. It's a pretty steep road. And as I pull out on the road, this Z01 is at the next street below turning up the road. So we see each other, and I let it go. And I'm going sideways down the street, and he lets his go at the same time. And we pass each other at full song, smoking the tires. And, George said it was pretty entertaining. So it was pretty loud. And I was like, yeah, I bet all the cops knew what we were doing. But that's probably the best one I have. I got into it with a motorcycle the other day, but not really racing or anything crazy. Just,
Yeah.
He was kind of sorry about that. He was kind of
No, you're good.
Shocked. He was kind of shocked that old 5.7. I don't know. Most people think it's either tunnel rammed or something. They don't expect it to be blown. And spinning so slow, the belt doesn't make a lot of noise. It doesn't whistle too loud.
Well,
yeah,
that's
it's
awesome,
probably
man.
the best story I've got with it. I don't really beat
That's
on it
cool,
too
man.
much.
What size block you got?
It's just 355.
Okay, that's the same. That's basically what I got.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's cool, man. Those are good.
Cool.
That's what was your first cool car? Or at least your first car that you thought was cool.
I had a 59 GMC short wide bed deluxe cab pickup that had a 389 in a 4-speed. I was in high school when I had that. I dropped it and had I did fit the appliance, the white 6-lug stock wheels they had, the Chevy trucks had.
Yep.
I had those on the front, and then I found some 15x8s off like a 70 Blazer, 4-wheel drive Blazer. So they're the same wheel, just one's wider than the other. And my truck was white, and these were white, and I had a pinstripe on it that was like really fine red pinstripe. And so I got 44, the really skinny Ford Beauty Rings.
Right.
And my wheels are white, and I put those on, and I put the same red pinstripe, and then I got GMC hubcaps that were brushed aluminum, and I did the GMC in the same red, and that's what I had on that truck. And it sat Rollo, had a tonneau cover on it, dual exhaust, full chrome cab. It was a nice truck. That was that was my second car. The first car was a 70 Impala that my algebra teacher gave me, but I sold that and I bought that truck. I think I gave like $1,500. My dad bought it for $1,200 and sold it to me for $300 more. He says he didn't do that, but he did. He's like, let me tell you, let me give you a lesson here, son. Don't lose money on
Right.
vehicle. I bought this for 12.
You gotta
could
make
have
a
it for
little bit.
15.
Yeah.
All right.
But I was 16 when I had that.
What's the ugliest car you've owned?
Oh man.
Like
Yeah,
least proud.
Least proud. I had a 70.5 Z28. I don't like anything, and for Camaro, I don't think they should have made anything after 69. I mean, the rest of them are good parts cars.
That was a 70. Was that a split bumper?
It was a split bumper car.
Ooh, those are nice cars.
Burnt to the ground with me in it. That was I don't like that car. I've had 100. I don't remember how many. I've lost count at like 80 some cars. I've had, I don't know. At one time, I had 16 67 to 72 Chevy trucks at one time. You know,
Wow.
I've had Camaro Chevelles. I had a 70 RT Charger. I had a 68 Sports Satellite. Like I've had, I don't know. I had the body of a Hemi GTX. I had a 68 Charger. I've had so many different cars and trucks, and you know, I think I bought a T-bucket kit, a total performance T-bucket kit for $50 at an auction, and I never went and picked it up. You know, I mean, that kind of stuff. When you're a kid and you're a gearhead, all you do is buy junk.
So I at least got you beat on the ugly car because I had to share my first vehicle with my sister, who was a year older than me, and we got an 85 Dodge Reliant K car with a 4-cylinder. So I got you beat. My sister, luckily, my sister totaled that, and so that was out of the family after about 6 months. But that was our first shared vehicle. And then my next, my next one I would consider ugly but cool at the same time was like a 72 Gremlin that we put on a 76 CJ Jeep frame with.
Oh no, that's cool.
We use hockey pucks as body mounts.
Yeah.
Minnesota, hockey,
Oh yeah, hey, we got the hockey pucks and then we put them underneath the Florida area, you know, just to get it off the chassis, and it got it up a little bit. We had 31s on it.
Yeah.
But I taped off the windows, and the whole can was rattle can camouflage, and that was a fun vehicle for about 6 months till that motor went, and then I got back into having pickups. So I'd say it's ugly, but it was cool at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, I'll throw mine in here. My dad always got mechanics liens on cars. So my first ugly car was the 77 Mustang 2. And that was actually, I got my first ticket in. It was the standard car with a 4-banger in it. And I thought I was doing all sorts of damage with that thing. And I got my first ticket in that. And then my next ugly car was a 1984 Buick Regal. And
Grandpa said what?
Was it a turbo Regal?
Well, he did have one for just a short bit, so it was a 3.8. It was the blue, which I wish I had that one back that he had. I didn't drive that one very long, but no, it was chocolate brown. It was the Cruiser. It had the big fluffy seats in it.
Yeah,
60-40 seats in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Eddie Murphy
you know,
seats.
but now that you see a lot of those are race cars because they're all G bodies, you know, and they're the last solid frame cars, and so
I don't understand that craze with those G bodies. I don't understand those, or the C10 craze. When I was growing up,
like
those things were, none of that stuff was popular.
Yeah. Oh, it's changed. I mean, you know, you look at a 67 to 69 Chevrolet pickup. You know, those things.
Yeah, those things are unbelievably expensive now, and they used to be like $50.
Yep.
I'll tell you what. I remember a good friend of mine when we were growing up, his dad had like an 81, 82 C10, brand new. And we were playing catch in the yard with like a softball.
Right.
And I threw one wild and it hit the middle of the driver's door and bounced right off. And his dad yelled at me, he goes, "Great, you just wrecked the door." And I looked at it and there wasn't a ding, there wasn't a dent, nothing. But by the end of the second winter, there was rings of rust because where the paint had flexed just enough, and being in Minnesota, that whole door rusted away in about 5 years from just that little bit.
Oh,
that's
my
how bad
gosh.
it is.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yep. So, we're more careful nowadays, but there are some vehicles, like you said, that I don't appreciate that other people do. But if
Yeah.
somebody works on them, I appreciate the workmanship and the
Yeah. Oh yeah.
craftsmanship that they
Oh
do.
yeah.
But, like I went to the Beloit Autorama in Wisconsin car show, and the lowriders. I'm not a lowrider guy, but I appreciate the hard work that these guys put into the vehicles to do what they're
Oh,
doing,
the detail is
Right.
unreal on those things.
right?
Yeah, I couldn't polish that much stuff.
I
No,
think,
Yeah,
no,
there's
and I
there's no
mean
way.
can you imagine the hours? I mean, Dan, you got a body shop, right? Dan, you have
Yeah.
a body shop. How many hours can you imagine goes into one of those cars? Like
Well, I mean,
thousands
as
and
far as
thousands
like
of hours.
the upkeep polishing or just polishing the car
No,
just,
just
after you
just the
paint it.
body work.
well, I
Oh,
think Matt Murray's been building his 57 for about 13 years. So, and he's almost on the road, but you
well,
look at, I don't want to polish my wheels. And yet here's guys that polish their wheels, their air tanks, their braided lines, and all of it. And I
oh
appreciate
yeah.
that because the work that it puts on it. I mean, you got
Oh,
Joey polishing his charge pipe. I get that, you got to make sure everything's right. And it's like, man, some of the stuff that you see come in,
yeah.
the only ones that I truly despise at the car show, besides brand new cars, like the 2019 Corvette that rolls in with a new sticker,
Ugh.
don't care for that. But we have a couple of guys that come here to car shows, and they bought their trucks at Seam or not, what's it, Barrett Jackson, $120,000 trucks that Extensive or somebody else built, and they never even turned a wrench, and they come to the car show and they win. And I'm like, yeah, you spent 100 grand with daddy's money, and they've got the gold chains, the black t-shirt, and the straight brimmed hat, and it's just like, man, you don't know how to turn a wrench. And another kid drives in with like a 72 Ford F100, rusted out right off of grandpa's farm. I will go look at that any day over that other one.
I agree.
Oh,
I
definitely.
agree. Like I mean, I'm not gonna a guy that can afford to go buy something like that and he loves that stuff, man, more power to you. I love it. I mean, that's great. And it's guys like that that keep me in business because they love that truck so much. He paid 120 grand for it. He wants to keep it running. And if something goes wrong at all, his cigarette, he can't charge his cell phone or whatever. He blows a fuse. That's the kind of stuff
Yep.
people will call me and I'll come over and help them with real quick. And I'm not going to fault someone for not building their car because some guys will do it because a lot of guys don't have the abilities that we have. I mean, they just don't know how to do it. So they pay
Right.
somebody
Most
else to
definitely.
do it. And that's great. I totally appreciate that. And I've been in shops, like, I'm not going to drop any names, but they used to call me to come in and wire a car sitting in a shop that they're building. And some of these cars are $300,000. That's what they're being
Oh wow.
spent for like a 34 Ford, or whatever. And it's like, you know, there's 2,500 hours in it, and it's X amount a month or per hour in the car, and then they've got a $25,000 engine, and they've got the rear end was 10 grand, and the chassis was I mean it adds up so fast plus the labor, and I come in and wire the car, and the car it's all about hiding the wires and making it to where it runs, but that's the whole point is I know where a lot of those cars mistakes are because I've seen them naked. You know what I mean? I've seen them being built.
Yep.
I
Oh
know what
yeah.
they look like, and
Yeah.
you see them
Well,
at a car
being
show,
being
and
the
I
one that
can
does
tell
the
where the
body
mistakes
work,
were. Yeah, right. Oh,
you
God,
know,
again, I'm not
you
used to wearing
see.
these
Well,
things.
we got to
Sorry.
tread lightly. I don't want us to upset Neil West because he's made a comment here that you got to know your limitations, and he's right.
No,
There
he's
are some type,
100% right.
and I've been to Neil's place, and it's absolutely a gorgeous house, and he's got three gorgeous cars, and he just built his wife a '53 pickup. It's absolutely gorgeous, but just like the one thing that I'm still, and I say this every week, that I'm grateful for starting the mob simply because I've learned so much from people on here, and I wanted to get back to people sharing more information, but I've always been mechanical. But 5 years ago, I hadn't touched a car in 10 plus years, 20 years. So
Hmm.
here I am starting at 55. Now I'm getting ready to pull my transmission, put a hydraulic clutch in. I'm not even worried because I pulled the transmission out 6 times already. you
Right.
Yeah.
know, I got to pull out the rear end to get it rebuilt. I'm not even worried because I've done it. I can do this now because of the things that guys on here have taught me. Joey knows I've called him. Dan knows I've called him for information. I'm kind of an asshole because I ask people all the time for advice, but I try to follow it and do it. And that's part of what this is. And I think even,
but you know your limitations though.
yeah,
And I wish more people were more in touch with their limitations and didn't let their pride get in the way, because say a guy has a car and he didn't build it, but he bought it and he loves it, but he wants to tinker with it and he tries it out,
yep,
but he ends up screwing it up so bad that if he just would have stopped and called somebody and known his limitations, he could have saved himself
yep,
and the car some headaches. Like,
Right.
yep,
if you really value your rides, people, I mean, you got to drive them to really get to know them. But if you really value them, know your limitations, know the car, and get some help. There's nothing wrong with asking someone for help, because there's plenty of
right,
guys like me out there or other guys, that are 10 times better than me or whatever, that will be more than happy to come help you keep your car on the road. Because that's what we're all in here for, right?
Yeah. Almost
We're
definitely
all-
for,
we all love
helping each
tri-fives.
other
We
keep
all-
going.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
all are loving having fun driving them. That's what the whole point.
well, and
So-
see, but I'm also stupid enough at times to try things that I really don't have the skill to try. But like, we've got Richard Owens, who I call BDO. He is very good with polishing and detailing and doing paint correction on cars. And where I have to, when he's working on my car, the very first time he's getting the buffing pad out and he's, scratching it up to buff it and doing wet sanding,
right?
man, I just spent 20 grand on body and paint. I turned around, I had to leave the garage because my stomach was turning watching him wet sand on paint that I just paid for. And my
Right.
paint's not close to being perfect. It's good, but it ain't perfect. But I'm watching him do his magic, and it's like, okay, he's worth every penny of the book,
Oh yeah.
And it's like you watch these people, and I've learned what not to do on some things. I've watched what to do on some things. I mean, like I asked a lot of people about pinion angles, and it's amazing how many people have different views on pinion angles
That's
and trying to
true.
figure that stuff out. But now I know where my car sits. I know everything about it because I ask and I follow the directions and I try to figure it out. But and I know that if I scratch the car, I'm not touching it up. I'm bringing it back to the body shop that did it the first time.
Right. Right.
But that's why I pay the insurance that I do, because I know better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
Well, I would say, one thing about the car community, most of us in the car community, we want to help each other, and you get you
Right?
some good buddies around, and sometimes, you know, one person has a little bit more knowledge in this area or that area, and that's what the brotherhood is about to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is
Absolutely.
trying to help out, and then, trust me, I've done more outsourcing of my car, because there's a big difference in building 1,000 horsepower car and building, a 1,500 plus horsepower car. I don't have, I mean, that's my butt in the seat. I'm not gonna put the cage in myself. I actually bought a cage and was gonna do it, and I'm like, I'm gonna be going this fast. I need to have somebody else that's done this before. So
Absolutely.
you'd have to definitely, know your limitations, and then, but having good friends and good buddies to help with that stuff too. And so, um, yeah, I mean, I enjoy talking to people that are fabricators, because I'm not saying I'm a great fabricator at all, but I enjoy talking to people and understanding how they do, or come up with a, like what you did, the slide a link with the bearing. I mean, that's pretty ingenious to do that and just to listen and talk. But I enjoy those people as well. But all of us kind of keep this whole thing going, whether we go
Yeah.
buy a car or whatever we do. The point is, we love these Tri-5 Chevys or whatever groups we're in, and that's how that keeps this thing moving.
Yeah.
If we continue to build cars, the aftermarket is what keeps producing parts and keeping things for us to have them.
Man, that's the truth. And it's like, if we all were the same, we'd all have red 32 Fords,
Right?
Yeah.
And
Or
we
red
don't.
and white, or red and white Chevy 55 Chevy sedans.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
an
Red
Sorry,
and
Black
white.
57
Yeah.
sorry,
hardtop.
John Pell. Sorry, John Pell. Mark Levine. Sorry.
Yeah. Or we'd all have, Onyx Black 55, 57 Chevy hardtops.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Let me ask
so
you.
we're getting, go ahead, Craig.
I've kind of been looking at a lot of this stuff lately, and I hate it, but I think it's a future that we have to address because it's coming eventually. What's your thoughts on the electric vehicle
I
stuff
don't do that.
for hot rods? And I know I probably know what it is, but what's a realistic thought from you?
So here's the thing with the electronics. I played with electronic vehicle back. Oh, it was years ago, or maybe 15 years ago, maybe more. And it was a S10 pickup that GM actually put out like 200 of them, and
Okay.
they were electric. The whole bit floor of the bed was batteries made by Delphi, and they were electric motors. And they sent out 200 trucks. They only had VIN numbers on 2 of them, and so the 2 disappeared. They actually were able to be sold in the public. The other ones were recalled back because they were just on loan through GM. And I got to play with one of the 2 and got to get it running. And the technology is really cool. I mean, as much as the hybrid thing, I hate what it stands for, but I like it. I appreciate it. I had a Prius for a long time that I just beat up because, I used it for work and I could haul stuff in it and beat the crap out of it, and 380,000 miles, and it still was running. And so, of course, I couldn't kill the thing, and I loved it because of that. But the electric car craze, like you can buy that whole power plant and drop that thing in there now.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool. But for those of us that are like, you got to know your audience. For those of us that are gearheads, I don't know about you, but I don't have a radio in my car.
Nope,
my small block and that blower belt and an M22 make all the noise I really need. And if I have to, I can put my earbuds in and pop in some old rock and roll or something, which is really fun. But
we lost him.
that's just the way it is.
We lost him on the on our video chat on the site. There he is.
There we go.
There, I went back. I don't know what happened. Just all of a sudden it went away. So anyway,
let's say I think he's still messing around.
So what I'm saying is take Project X. Like, I know that's where you're going with this. So
yeah,
I'm just like anybody else that grew up reading about Project X when it started in 65. I didn't see it in 65 because I wasn't around then. A few years later, yes. But I collected all the old magazines and anytime I go to like a swap meet when I was a kid, I just would buy boxes of magazines. So I had them all. And anything in Project X, I had all the popular hot rodding versions of Project X. And I love that car. But for me, it was like the everyman's car. It started out as a $250 57 that they, what do you guys want us to do with it? Readership. What do you guys? Oh, hey, try out this new small block, or try out this set of heads or headers, or, change these gears or that tranny, or try this clutch or whatever. So they would go try it, and you could read the magazine and see the results. And if you had a similar car, you could purchase it and you could expect something similar. And they did that for years. And then they did PAW had that big thick catalog. You guys remember that? The phone book?
Right. Yeah.
And
PRW Performance.
They had the blown
Warehouse.
engine combinations. Well, that's what they first stuck in that Performance Auto Warehouse. That's what they first stuck in Project X, was a blown 350 from PAW. And I was like, I always wanted to buy one of those and see how that ran. Well, it ran pretty good. I think they souped it up some more and did some stuff. I think they clicked off some like mid-10s with it. I think there's a picture of the car sky in the front end with that PAW motor in it. And I thought, that's great. And then GM screwed that car up in the mid-2000s by turning it into $1 million Corvette project. It went from being a car that I could, look through my Summit catalog and maybe pick a couple of parts, or maybe even a $20,000 crate motor was somewhat within reach for the average guy. That's what that car represented. Paint jobs, interior, wheels, tires, brakes, all that stuff. But to take it and blow $1 million on it, which I don't have, and I don't know anybody else that does, to create that thing, took it clear from reality into the stratosphere. Was it cool? Yeah, super cool. Was it anything I could relate to anymore? No. It was no longer Project X at that point. Now it was Project GM whatever.
Right.
And then Hot Rod took it and tried to redo it and take it back to, Tony Danza days, with their thing. They did the blown LS and all that fun stuff. That was kind of cool. It was cool that they could take it back and put Kragers on it, make it look like that. That was still kind of cool. But then to electrify that car, like,
I think that'll probably backfire. I think it'll be, there are some people that'll look at that as innovative, but like you said, there's just no sound with it. Maybe faster and all that.
It doesn't play the same music that I'm into. You know what I mean?
No.
But does that mean generations from now, someone's not going to stick an electric motor in my 57 if it's still around?
No.
Maybe. Is that cool? Yeah. The fact that car could be still rolling around 50 years from now with some young kid, some punk
Yep.
like me that's into it. Dude, if you stick a diesel in it, I don't care.
Right.
Right.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the PAW, because of all the things that I remember as a kid is when I would get Super Chevy magazines or anything from my dad, I didn't read. I looked at the pictures, but I remember the PAW, kind of that triangle look of the ad with the blower motor on it. And you're looking
Right.
at it like, oh, that's cool. And I used to draw a lot as a kid and doodle, and that's how I would learn what parts looked like. So I would doodle off those parts that they had in the ads. That was cool. But the reason I bring up the electric thing, because it ticks me off that I waited 40 years to have a hot rod, and now they're trying to take this stuff away from us. But I noticed that, like, this week, and I know it's the F word, but Ford at SEMA unveiled one of their crate motors, and it was only like 280 horsepower, 350 foot-pounds of torque, but it's a different kind of rating when you're talking electric motors. I get that.
Right.
But it was only 205 pounds was the whole motor. So when you look at 205 pounds, and it was under $7,000 for the motor. Now, I don't know what the battery cost was, but when you start thinking about if you're building a car, and people are going to be looking at this going, oh, what's he talking crazy? Well, you talk $7,000 for the motor, but you don't need a transmission. You don't need, exhaust. You don't need all this other stuff. Now we're talking at least a reasonable rate to put something in. Whereas the Chevy and the Tesla one, they were in the $30,000 range.
Yeah,
Nobody can afford that.
I think they're going to find the real issue is going to be the electrical and hooking it all up. And that's what's going to scare most people from wanting to swap out. Say they got a 32 Ford or 33 Speedster or something like that from, like Chip Foose or one of those guys. And they want to swap out the LS and throw an electric motor. Unless this shop does it, the average guy like you and me, or the average people I know that have cars, they may think that's cool, but they're not going to go buy that thing because they're deathly afraid. Because, when the Prius came out, or like the Honda Element came out, they gave you those big orange tongs and, non-conductive gloves, or like if you want to check your oil, don't touch this or don't touch that. Because,
Didn't it come with a 24 pack of tampons also, though?
Well, I don't know. But they were like, they were, you know what I mean, though? There was such a I don't want to say it's a misnomer about it, but it was such a misconception of electrical that it could be that dangerous you could actually die. I mean, you have to be really stupid and be grabbing like a screwdriver and go take everything off the back of the car and start jabbing at the battery and actually be lucky enough to hit one of the terminals and cross them like you would. Right. And it's 240 volts DC. It's a ton of amps, but it's not like sticking a 9-volt battery to your tongue, that's for sure. But it's not like 100,000 volts off of your coil from your MSD ignition if you're standing in the water. That really hurts.
Well,
I bet.
To get back on kind of subject of the cars, I'm a lot like you then, Brant, because I chose not to put a radio in my car. I took the guts out of it, so I had the faceplate, so it looks original in the car, but I took the guts out of it.
Right.
Everybody goes, I can't believe you didn't put a radio in your car. No, because I'm listening to the exhaust. I'm listening to the blower whine. I'm listening to the rear end whine right now that needs to be fixed, and I go, but that's what hot rodding is. Getting all four windows down on the hard top, right, Joey? Getting all four windows down. You got your arm hanging out the window, and it's just you're listening to that sound. That's pure fucking sexy.
Yeah.
All right, well, hang on. Let me back. I have a working radio in my car with 2 6x9s in the back, and the reason I have that in there.
Are they Cracos?
No, sir, they're not Cracos. So the reason I have that is in the true street class for racing, you have to have a working radio. Now you can't hear it, you cannot hear it when you're driving, but they want a working radio in the class. So you actually have to have a working radio in the class.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
I have the radio delete, the clock delete, and the heater delete plate in my 57.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I actually have a little thumb drive
you
with
guys
some
out
music
there
on it.
you guys out there in the ocean, you don't have to worry about having heaters, do you?
No, I don't have a heater or defroster in that car. No.
No.
I wish I
use-
did. I wish I had all that stuff, but all that stuff was cut out. You guys probably don't know that much about the dash of the car, but I got all this. Mikey sent me all that stuff. Mikey Hummel. He sent me
Okay.
like
Yep.
out of his parts car
Okay.
before he died, and that was like, we talked about that, Craig. You and I
Yep.
talked about
That's
that.
that's when you and I first kind of connected a little bit.
Yeah. And so he meant a lot to me, that guy did. And so he helped me patch my dash back to stock because somebody butchered it. So I put it back to stock, and it looks stock. And it's all because he gave me the pieces off of one of his pieces of junk. But
Yep.
That's cool.
But that's how it goes. That's how it is. That's for me. That's the stuff that's important. I like to look at that, and I think about him every day when I'm driving it. Because here it is, and this wouldn't be done if it wasn't for him. And it's the same with most of the parts on this car. I've had a lot of people donate stuff and give stuff away, and I've given stuff away to people because, it's like you said, that's our community. We need to help each other keep these things going. And that ties right in with the electrical car stuff. If people want to turn some of these things into electrical vehicle because maybe the environment they live in or whatever, the cost of fuel is too much, it's cheaper to do it electric, but they still want to enjoy their 55, man, knock yourself out. I totally understand that. But put a CD player in there and play the big sounds of the drags or something so you can listen to like some blown top fuel stuff from the 60s go rolling by or something.
I said that from the get-go, and I know that Ford has already done it in one of their vehicles, but you got to invent the stereo system. So when you turn that key, you can program it to the 572, the 454, a turbo LS, whatever you want it to sound like. You got to have that noise and a big 24-inch woofer underneath the car. So it sounds like something.
Right. Something in the trunk that just shakes the whole car when a nitro motor fires off or something.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I know we're running short on
Prius.
time, but I wanted to say one thing too. My daughter, because this is going to be her car when I'm gone, and she made a comment to me, and it really kind of stuck with me about things. She was like, Dad, when you're gone, the people that know these cars won't even be alive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's kind of true, because most of the people that knew these cars back in the 50s won't be here anymore. So I've kind of taken it on myself to, we kind of make fun of whether it's different crowds, whether it's the import stuff or electric stuff. But I go to these meets,
hardtop stuff
where, I go to some of these underground stuff where there's nothing but Lambos and Porsches and things like that, because they get to see an old cool car, and a fast car on top of that. So you can make them fast and they still be old. But we really all have to kind of do that if we want to kind of continue this, because most of them don't know what a 55, or 56 or 57 is. They have no idea. They don't know that. They just think maybe there's just a Bel Air because it says Bel Air on the side. They don't know anything about a 150 or a 2DN or anything. And so it's kind of really all of our jobs to kind of keep this, this thing rolling with the new kids.
That's like the most common question I get is, what year is that? What is it?
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't have a clue. They don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Joe. I think that's 1,000% correct. I think it's up to us to pass the torch, but there's too many people that I know that are stingy with the information. They want to be paid for it for some reason. Like, don't hold on to that. Just like, if a kid needs to work on his old car or something like that, just help him out. Because he'll help somebody else out. He'll keep the flame going and keep us all, people loving our stuff, or loving, because we're going to be gone and that car will still be here. Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Well, I've had that discussion with many people, and I worry about, like my son, I'm trying to get him involved more, but it's tough with kids, getting them away from computers and all the stuff that they play with. And he's been getting better, but in 10 years, because if you go to a car show now and you sit and look around, who's there? A bunch of fat old men walking around with their wives. There ain't a lot of young kids.
No.
Although Joey and I had one young kid come up to us when you were racing, Joey, at the Nats, and he Instagrams us, and he goes, "Hey, Tri-5 Mob and Gold Digger," and is Alex Carby was a kid's name, and he wants a picture with us and super cool, and he's 18 years old. We need more of those.
Yeah,
we need more shop. We need a shop class involved with history. Boom.
I agree. That's why on my channel I do car quiz. Like every Saturday. I was doing every Saturday, but I'll do like a car quiz every week, and I give people homework to go find out more information about this topic. And it's always like, who came up with the first seatbelts, or or whatever. Where'd the car to carburetor come from, or stuff like that. I've been doing that for a long time, but because I used to be a teacher, that was probably my most favorite job. Was I taught auto mechanics for Boise State. That was really fun, and that was a kick. I had a bunch of crazy kids, and I would always interrupt their tests with like burnout videos on the big screen and stuff like that. Because I have all that attention deficit stuff. I need to be keep myself entertained.
Right. I was going to be a teacher, but they said you couldn't smack kids that were unruly, so I backed out.
Yeah, see, in college you can. No, you can't.
Right.
Violence is never the key, kids. Never the key.
All right, guys.
You should have told my mom that.
Yeah, we're cruising past an hour, guys. Like,
yes, we are. And
to an hour?
This week, we've had some pretty good conversation, pretty good. Learned something about your car, learned about how things are out where you're at. I really want to say thank you for joining us this week, Brant. And I appreciate it a lot.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Next week we are having a impromptu. Craig has received all the clutch stuff, and we're gonna do a kind of a Q&A with Sherilyn Westrich from Mallwood, USA about the clutch setup. Craig's got the stuff in his hands, and he's gonna kind of be showing some pieces, and we're gonna talk with Sherilyn about the parts and whatnot. So I'm gonna say tune back in next week.
Oh, I'll definitely be tuned in.
So the people that don't know, obviously Sherilyn Westridge from Overhauling, who's now a state representative in Iowa. I've actually chatted with her a lot. She's an awesome person. And I ended up ordering, along with Richard Owens here, I think Terry Kennedy and David Bacon also, they all ordered the clutch pedal from her. For people that don't know, it's basically, if you want to go hydraulic clutch, it's super simple because it's the 55, 56, or 57 pedal that you pull out your original pedal. This one bolts right in, and the slave cylinder is built right into the pedal, so you don't have to do any geometry. You don't have to figure out any pedal ratio. All you have to do is put the reservoir out on the firewall and run the lines out, and then run the line down to a hydraulic throwout bearing, and you're basically got to bleed it and you're done. So I'm very anxious to have her back on here because I've talked to her a ton about this. When I am doing mine this winter after Christmas, I bought a new GoPro camera. I'm going to be videoing the whole thing as best I can to make an instructional video, because two things. She needs help because she posts all the time on Tri-5 sites and nobody ever comments because they don't understand what the product does. And so I'm going to help her out trying to do an instructional how-to video and for her. And, I'm going to have fun with it because I like to do that. Hopefully it helps her out. And she gave this goes to anybody in the mob that watches this. If you want to go hydraulic, you want to try her system, she's given 15% off until Christmas for mob members, which comes from $550 down to about $467. So it's a good little discount. Yep. And
does it come with a slave too?
No, well, the slave cylinder is built into the pedal, but then you got to have the throwout bearing, the hydraulic throwout bearing. Am I saying that right?
No, it comes with a master on the side.
Yeah, master. That's right. Yeah, master's on the pedal.
Right.
And the slave, depending on your transmission, slave, there's so many prices. You can get anywhere from $125 to $400. The one I chose was a Tilton. I'm buying it from Modern Driveline. It comes with a bleeder line and everything. I think it's $465. It's not cheap, but it's adjustable. I'm done with it. I've had too many clutch problems.
I'm running a McLeod hydraulic throwout bearing and a 91 Nissan pick hard body master cylinder that I modified to fit the stock pedal.
That's cool.
I'm running mechanical with 3 return springs, and it starts to hurt and stop and go traffic.
Oh no, mine's like mine. Well, the clutch, the pressure plate is still stiff, but it's nice.
Yep. So
hydraulics the way to go.
Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Thanks Brant for
having me.
Being with us. Craig and Joey, thank you for tonight being with us and helping us with the interview. I really appreciate it. And we will see you guys all next week.
Great.
Thank you, and have a good night.
You too.
Thanks for tuning in to Tri-5 Talk. with your hosts Daniel Check, Craig Westpenning, Joey Truelove, and a special thank you for our background designer Chad Reynolds, and a special thank you as well for our production analyst Joe Miller. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you next time.